Hello. How's it going? Welcome back. My subjects, nah. Still trying to figure out what to call y'all. So you may be wondering, why did you upload twice today? What? You may be wondering. Before the video starts, I will not be uploading Thursday because I have a doctor's appointment. Which is why I will be uploading twice today on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. It's a big mic though. If the doctor's appointment doesn't take that long, I may upload that day, or not. Depends. I may take a break. Who knows? I'll go into more detail on my 100 video special. Because right now I've only got 98. This is the 99th video I've made. Yippee! Anywho, on to the video. So, y'all ever heard of Job? I think that's how it's pronounced. Today we'll be talking about the story of Job. So, Job was Job. I really don't know how to describe the guy. Okay, like all the others, I'll summarize the story, ask questions, and, stuff. So, to summarize, Job was a loyal follower of God. So loyal, in fact, that one day, God was in a meeting, and then the guy in red, I'm not calling him by his actual name, I don't care, walks up. It's like, hey, yo, God. God's like, what do you want? The only reason Job follows you is because of his riches, his land, his children, blah, 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 blah. And God responds with, bet. And it's like, test Job's belief. You can do anything to him except kill him. And if he curses in my name, you win. It's like, okay. And then, Job gets tortured. He loses his children. He loses his house. He gets covered, all sicknesses. He has, every sickness except for ones that are, terminal, instant death sicknesses, He loses his farm, he loses his animals, he loses his money. But throughout it all, he stays praying. Now, Job, the people around Job are basically like, you did something, man. Pray for forgiveness to the Lord Almighty. That way, you'll get your stuff back because you obviously did something bad. And Job's like, no, I didn't. I know I didn't. I would pray for forgiveness if I did sin, but I didn't sin. Therefore, I will not pray for forgiveness. However, I will pray. And Job starts, questioning God, asking why he's doing this, all this stuff, right? Why has this happened? Why has Job lost everything? People keep telling him, pray for forgiveness, pray for forgiveness. He still says no, 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 and no. And eventually, it comes to a point where he's on his lowest and he still chooses to follow God. And then, just like that. Hold on. Sorry for the interruption. So he basically, it's like, so then God's like, Job, you're a real one. Which is why your children, the amount of children you will have now with your wife has doubled. Your farm and riches are back, and your riches are multiplied, or something like that. And all this stuff, right? And that's the story of Job. That's pretty much his story, basically. Blah. Blah. It's like, which brings me, of course, to questions and answers, but mostly questions. So, and just other stuff as well. First, answers. Now, I'll say this. I've always questioned why Job didn't at least try to pray for forgiveness. Because the test wasn't necessarily, he will pray for forgiveness. No, the test was, what would happen? Would Job basically say the Lord's name in vain and rebuke him? Or, I guess, revoke him from his life or something. Just be like, I'm done with you, God. And that's pretty much it? Or if he didn't. Or if he stayed true and continued following the path of God. That's basically the challenge. Until it was, dumbed down. For those who are like me and need things to be dumbed down. Basically, Job knew that he didn't do anything wrong. And two, from what I've read, Job was told at some point or another it wasn't about something that he did. That was more of a test rather than a... But then again, I could be wrong. On to questions. First question is, has anyone else other than Job been put to do this test as well? Because while Job is said to be one of God's most loyal followers, nowhere else in the Bible is anyone tested the way that Job is. We have Abraham, whose toughest test was really just, hey, will you sacrifice your son? And Abraham, yes. But just like that? Yeah. Why? Because I'm your loyal follower. Is that really the only reason? Maybe. No hesitation. The guy was ready. If God hadn't intervened. Now, son, I need you to lay down here. But that's where the sacrifices are put, Dad. Oh, I know. Dad, you're scaring me. Shh. It's alright, just get on the platform. Why? Just cause, God told me specifically to ask you to lay down on that platform. Alright. If you said God said it, but I don't see why he would tell you to tell me such a thing. Oh, don't worry, son. You'll find out very soon. just while on the way on the mountain, just sharpening a blade. Ready. Start seasoning his. He was ready. Is what I'm trying to say. He was ready. With what's his name? With Solomon, his biggest test was basically, would he rely on his wisdom or God? Which have I talked about Solomon yet? I don't think I have. If I haven't, I will. If I did, I'm not going to talk about Solomon. That one guy who gained his strength from his hair and was eventually cut off, his whole entire test was basically, would he rather give in to his lust, or would he rather not give in to his lust? And because again, I feel his lust was the only reason that not only was his beard cut off, but the reason his eyes were scooped out. You know, because he was with the same woman the whole entire time. And this dumb is like, how you doing? And she's like, what's your weakness? I'll tell you once we get the pleasantries over. It is iron. 5 minutes later, iron. So, my lady, it's like, so what's your weakness? Copper. Like, there's no way this guy did not know that she was betraying him, because that's a whole entire, no, don't go off that tangent. Hold on, I'll keep that story later on, because I've got so much to say about that one. Basically, Job goes through the hardest, which begs me the question: are humans today, or specifically people who follow God, tested the same way that Job was, or at least in some manner of speaking? Not like, loses their house, loses everything, not like that, not that severe, but they still are put through that test, right? And better question is, what diseases did Job have, that weren't terminal? Can someone, do the math on that, count, be like, okay, so yes, let's see, he's obviously sick, he's got, I don't know, tuberculosis. I know tuberculosis is terminal or something like that. But at the same time, this is the logic, the logic doesn't work here. What are some non-terminal diseases? Could he... Well, is there a possibility that somehow, some way, Job got, what's the word? I don't know if I can say this. H. Space bar. I. Space bar. V. Remove the space bars, and you know what I'm talking about. Give me a moment. Now you may be asking, Anthony, why do you care why can't you just say the word? Well, for one, I don't want this video to be taken down or age restricted, as I need the views. And you may be asking, what for? You don't get anything out of it, especially money. To which I say, true, but the more views I have on a video, the better the chance I have at, getting engagement. Which you may be like, that's untrue. No, it isn't. I uploaded a short a couple days ago. I can't remember when, but a couple days ago. Titled, I Didn't Know Steak Was Better Cooked. That video had 2.5K views. My highest viewed short and video in general. Not only that, it got 5 shares, 19 likes, and 1 comment. The more the views, the better. So I can't, risk all that. Anyway, yeah. Just me going on a little side tangent. Yoink. Was he given those types of diseases as well, or just here, have. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. I forget the name of the disease immediately. Leopard skin. I don't know what it's called. It's called something. I know it started with an L. Leprous? No. I'll remember that in a couple minutes. All this to say, to leave you off with a positive note. Just because Job went through a lot of stuff, I know it's used as a meme around here. It's like, oh, you're complaining about having a bad day. Look at Job. Yeah, you start praying to God about how a bad day, how bad of a day you had, and then but Job hears or something like that. Great memes, but just because Job went through really hard stuff doesn't mean you can't complain about also going through hard stuff. So if you're ever having a bad day, you're allowed to complain about it. That's all. It doesn't matter whose days was worse. It's just about your day was bad. So complain about it. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Leprosy. That's the word. Leprosy. I knew it. I had to watch a YouTube video to remember. I think it's a leprosy. No, great. I don't know if it's leprosy or not. I spent like 13 minutes out of my life just to figure out what it was called, and I don't even know if it's called that. It was just fantastic. This is who you're dealing with. So yeah. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, and or night. See you after I'm done hibernating. Goodbye, my subjects. I don't know. I'm leaning into the whole king thing, but I don't know if that's really working out. Peace.